us. I know it's pretty quick. Usually it takes people a few minutes to get joining us, just like it takes us a few minutes to actually get going. So welcome to our study of Raymond Hollowell's book, Working with the Law. And of course, welcome my co-host, the wonderful, the amazing, never gets sick, Aaron Gaffnernick.
Hi, everyone.
And
Hi, Lee.
And I'm Lee Jenkins. Yeah, I forgot about that part. Anybody's asking, the reason we're talking about, actually, it kind of fits into what we're thinking, or with this particular chapter on the law of thinking, is, what you think about, you bring about. And, with all this word of COVID-19 and all these different things going on in the world, if you're constantly thinking about that, there's a very good chance you're going to bring that into your world. Right. And, that's not what this particular chapter necessarily is about, but it sort of is. But that is along the lines of the law of vibration and the law of attraction. And we will be talking about that. So if you're wondering why we're talking about health, it's because sometimes we have a conversation before we get on these calls. Right. So,
yeah.
Anyways, good afternoon to whoever's following us. Unfortunately, with this system, it doesn't tell me, because we are broadcasting on a few different places. So it doesn't tell me your name. So if you do want to give us your name, then we know who's following us. And again, good afternoon to whoever that is. I kind of have an idea, maybe, because we have a few people that seem to be regulars. So anyhow, the law of thinking. This is a good one. Now, he talks a little bit of a few things, like he gives a quote from Proverbs, but I was going to, kind of just jump over to something James Allen wrote. Lawrence Buckley, I kind of thought it was you, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow too at the round table. That'd be great as well. So it made me think of James Allen and As a Man Thinketh. Now think of this. This was written like over 100 years ago, I think. Great book, and actually, if you're on the Elevate Network, there's an audio book that's free that you can actually listen to, the entire version of James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. But anyways, he went on to say that mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes. The tool of thought and shaping what he wills brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. If you think about that, I like that part too. The tools of thought and shaping what he wills brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. So it's really important to understand these laws. Now, I remember, somebody talking about, more along the lines of, say, a religious point of view, and talking about sin. And really, my understanding what sin is not living by the laws. Like if everything is God, or everything is the creator or divine, whatever it is you prefer to refer to it as, everything is it. So these laws are God, or the divine, the source, again, whatever it is you decide to call it. So by violating these laws, you're technically causing sin. So that's why it's important to really understand these, because it affects your life dramatically. So he goes on to say, Raymond Hollowell starts out here talking about, he says, to the average person, life is an enigma, a deep mystery, a complex, an incomprehensible problem, or appears so, but it is very simple if one holds the key. Mystery is only another name for ignorance. All things are mysteries when they are not understood, but when we understand life, it no longer appears a mystery. I can honestly say, especially when I was younger, that most of life was a mystery to me. I did a lot of things that probably shouldn't have done. And had I known what I know today, I think things might have turned out a little bit different. But anyways, he went on to say, man is a progressive being, a creature of constant growth, before whom lies an illimitable ocean of progress to be navigated and conquered only by development and culture of his inherent powers. Now, I like this part here. He says, the progress of the individual is largely determined by his ruling mental state, because the mind is the basic factor in governing power in the entire life of man. Now, he also says attention should be given to the predominant mental state, for it will regulate the actions and directions of all one's forces, faculties, and powers, the sum total of which will inevitably determine many particular experiences and the personal fate. So he's basically, again, talking about how your thinking is going to have a big impact on what's going on in your life. So he carries on here by saying the ruling state of mind is made up of various mental attitudes which the individual adopts towards things, events, and life in general. If his attitudes are broad in mind, optimistic in tone, and true to life, his predominant mental state will correspond and exhibit a highly constructive and progressive tendency, as almost all the forces of the almost all the forces of the personality function through the conscious mind in one way or another, and as daily mental and physical acts are largely controlled by the conscious mind. It is obvious that the leading mental state will determine the direction in which the powers of the individual are to proceed. Now, this goes into, we talk about mental state. A lot of this is what we talk about in a lot of our programs is how we're conditioned to see the world. We've been programmed to see things. And if you're not thinking, then your outside world is going to be in line with how you've been programmed to see that world. Now, I think it's a couple of paragraphs down. He says mental attitudes are the result of ideas, and these have their origins in points of view. Therefore, by seeking true and natural points of view, one may secure the best and most superior ideas. These in turn will determine the predominating state of mind. And he says we are prone to believe more than what we see. The evidences of the senses are the only facts that some accept. But now we shall realize more and more that it is what we believe that determines what we shall see. In other words, believing is seeing. More defeats and failures are due to mental blindness than to moral deviation. If one lived only by physical sight, his world would be very small. It would be said of a bug, or that of a bug that is world is only as large as the size of a leaf on which it lives. And many times it does not live long enough to consume the whole leaf. With man, he lived according to the senses. The largest sense he possessed would be that of sight. Thus, our whole world would extend only as far as we can see. Now, this reminds me of the lessons that we've talked about before, even in the abundance tuning, we talked about our higher self. We generally live with our five physical senses. He's talking about sight. We can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Normally, all our thinking and all of how we see the world is based on that. But then we have our higher faculties, and this is a part that people don't really quite understand. In fact, you can ask people if they know what your higher faculties are, and generally they'll probably tell you they don't know what they are. I'll just quickly tell you I got them written down so I can never forget: imagination, intuition, will, memory, reason, and perception. Imagination. You're seeing something that doesn't exist. It's causing you to think about it. And in your intuition, that's your connection to this universe, right? So these are all fantastic things. And when you really start to understand these lessons, I think that you're going to see that you really can make a difference in life. You got something you wanted to add to that, Karin? Or
Yeah, this is very interesting and fascinating about the higher faculties. We talked about abundance tuning, like you said. And if everyone sees only what he sees with the five senses, like Raymond Hollywood writes it here, the world is very small.
Mhm.
And people don't understand that there is infinite intelligence. There are infinite possibilities. And it's sad that so many people don't see it. But if you dive in this informations, a new world opens up. And that's beautiful. Yeah, and we are programmed. Everyone is programmed through the programs from the parents from our paradigms, and we are trained about how we should see the world. And yeah, everyone can believe it or not. And everyone who says, okay, I don't believe it, that this is the end of all things, they dive into the higher faculties. And it's amazing what you can get results out of the imagination. This is really, really great. If you imagine something, it happens. This is law.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. Okay, so there's where are we leaving off here? Okay, the next section starts with, did you know? Is that?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Did you know that you don't even see with your eyes? Your eyes are like a pair of windows. At the back of the window, there is a reflector, and this reflector, in turn, forms an image of what you see and sets up a wave current. This wave current follows along thin wires called nerves. This relays the image back to the brain. Here at the brain, it is referred to the memory center. If the picture is a common one, our memory accepts it readily. But if we are looking upon some new pictures, some new scene, our memory does not recognize it, and then we must repeat the picture over and over many times until it makes a lasting impression. Therefore, we do not see with our eyes, we see with our mind. That's perfect, a perfect description.
That's really well done. I like that. Therefore, we do not see with our eyes, we see with our mind. That's absolutely
true. Yeah. Thought is a subtle element. Although it is invisible to the physical sight, it is an actual force or substance as real as electricity, light, heat, water, or even stone. We are surrounded by a vast ocean of thought stuff through which our thoughts pass like currents of electricity or tiny sticks of light or musical waves. You can flash your thoughts from pole to pole, completely around the world, many times in less than a single second. Scientists tell us that a thought is compared with the speed of light. They tell us our thoughts travel at the rate of 186,000 miles per second. Our thought travels 930,000 times faster than the sound of our voice. No other force or power in the universe yet known is as great or as quick. It is a proven fact scientifically that the mind is a battery of force, the greatest of any known element. Wow, this is high technique.
That's
Really
interesting too. Think
amazing.
of how many people you know that don't think. Like you're thinking, you sit back and go, what were they thinking? Well, they weren't thinking. And yet it's so powerful, right? Like you're just saying, it's so powerful.
Great,
Sure.
yeah. It is an unlimited force. Your power to think is inexhaustible. Yet there is not one in 1,000 who may be fully aware of the possibilities of this thought power. We are mere babes in handling it. As we grow in understanding and in the right use of thought, we will learn to banish our ills, to establish good in every form we may desire. It is our power to think that determines our state of living. As one is able to think, he generates a power that travels far and near, and his power sets up a radiation which becomes individual as he determines it. Our thoughts affect our welfare and often affect others we think of. The kind of thoughts we register on our memories or habitually think attracts the same kind of conditions.
That's why people keep getting the same results over and over again. Right?
The same results. Yeah, they have always the same system, always the same pattern, always the same thought. So it's clear. It's so clear that they always have the same picture, so they get always the same results.
Right.
I
It's a
think it was Einstein who said if you always do the same thing and you want to get different results, this is
that's the
definition of
definition of insanity.
craziness.
Insanity, yeah. You're nuts, right?
Yeah.
That's true. Though. Think about it. That's it's habitual way of thinking, and it keeps going over and over again, and getting basically people to keep doing the same thing every day throughout their lives, and they wonder why nothing changes because
Yeah.
their thinking doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many people say, okay, I'm thinking positive. Yes, I'm thinking positive, but you have to find out what it means really to think consciously, because using the brain doesn't mean to you think.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's something that our brain doesn't think.
Yeah.
We use our brain to think. And that's
Yeah.
something I think a lot of people think, they got it wrong in that way is, that your brain is somehow thinking for you. It's not. It's your conditioning. It's how you've been conditioned to see the world, the outside world, that is causing you to think in line with that, in that way of seeing things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if we take the thought of success and keep it in mind, the thought elements will be attracted, for like attracts like. We are mentally drawn to the universal thought currents of success, and these thought currents of success are existent all around us. We will physically contact minds who think along the same lines, and later such minds will be brought into our lives. Therefore, successful minded people help success come to them. That's interesting. They don't go after success. So if you have the successful thinking, the success comes to you.
That's basically the law of vibration and attraction.
Yeah, absolutely. That is how successful living is founded. The law of mind is in perpetual operation, and it works both ways. Persons who dwell on thoughts of failure or poverty will gravitate towards like conditions. They, in turn, will draw to them people who accept failure and poverty.
Yeah.
This is again the law of vibration, law of attraction. Yeah.
You see that. You see people and their friends. Their friends are always very similar to their life. Like it's, and then you see successful people. Successful people generally hang around with other successful people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I had a story, and when I met successful people where I thought they are successful people, and they are really, it was so interesting for me to interview those people.
Right. Yeah.
And ask them, what is your paradigm?
Yeah.
Which patterns do you have? What do you think through the day, all day long? Do you have rituals you follow every day? So this is really, really amazing. And it's fascinating because always when I talk to successful people, I had a success in my business.
Yeah.
So I picked up the vibration. I took the thinking from the successful people and I practiced it.
Right.
That's the mirror system.
You picked up that information and you practice thinking like them.
Yeah.
And that thinking, I imagine, caused you to take certain actions that maybe you didn't in the past. And then those actions cause a reaction, which are the results.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the thinking, doesn't it?
On the other hand, we can think on positive conditions, on success and plenty, and in the same manner enjoy full and plenty. What the mind holds within takes its form in the outer world. Something that we must deal with two forces. That is, to attract the good, we must do away with the bad. But this is not true. For example, if we are cold, we do not work with cold and heat alike in order to get warm. We build a fire, and as we gather around that fire, we enjoy the heat that is extended from it and becomes warm. As we build up warmth, the cold disappears. For cold is the absence of heat. To be warm, we give our whole thought to those things which tend to create warmth. We ignore the cold in thinking of heat and bring forth heat. Prosperity and poverty are not two things. They are merely two sides of one and the same thing. And I highlighted this one sentence because so many people think, okay, they are two different things, the prosperity and the poverty. And that's not true. It is just what you want to create, and where you focus on, what you think about, you bring about.
Yeah, absolutely. They're basically the same, on the same pattern, same vibration. They just, which one end of that vibration do you want to be on? And the sad part is too many people focus on the poverty side. They focus too much on what's wrong, and they don't focus on the solutions, which is obviously going to be the prosperity side of things. Right?
They are but one power, rightly or wrongly used. We cannot think of plenty and then worry about the unfavorable conditions that may seem apparent. We think about plenty, and as we think of it, lack, its opposite, will become absorbed and disappear. All our thoughts must be directed to that one thing which we desire in order that our desire may be fulfilled. Our method is not manipulating two powers, not dealing with good and evil, right and wrong, prosperity and poverty, but as we follow the law of good and dwell upon that which is good, we shall bring to pass all good things.
Yeah, excellent. It's like anything, I think it's important to understand that everything that you may want to change on the outside is going to start with your thinking. Like you have to change what's going on inside if you want to change what's going on outside, right? So, what we're talking about here, thinking is so important because you basically, with your thinking, control every aspect.
Absolutely, yeah. But so many people talk about, I have to clear all the old stuff out of my body. Yes, that's true, but only to a certain level.
Mhm.
I know many people, and I have a lot of clients, they are always fixed on the problems.
Mhm.
And that's the thinking. Yeah, you can think on lack, or you can think on prosperity. You can think about what's wrong. What do I, if you always ask yourself what's wrong, what do I have to clear out, and what blocks do I have, then you think about your blocks.
Yep, that's
Yep.
right. Unfortunately, society has got us focusing on what's wrong all the time.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
about solutions. It's not about focusing on making things better. It's always focusing on the problems
Yeah.
and never taking responsibility for any of the problems. It's always someone else's fault, right? This is why it's so important if you really want to make a difference, that you got to do things like what we're doing right now. We're studying material that is proven to be incredibly accurate. This is an excellent book, and I was going to mention too that if somebody would like a free download PDF version, obviously reach out to Karin or myself, and we'll be happy to get that for you. I was just going to skip a couple of paragraphs here and then jump down to, and it goes along with what we were just saying, is whatever we think in our minds must grow.
Yeah.
Why do you suppose a farmer goes out to weed his garden and works tediously to eliminate every weed? Because he knows that if he does not clean out the weeds, they will grow stronger and tougher and choke out his crop. Now, that's exactly what goes on in our minds, right? Like if you think about, if you don't get rid of the weeds, and that could be sometimes friends, it could be, turning the news off, it could be, stop watching your favorite TV show and things like that, and get rid of the weeds, right? So
So in this case, you can take the situation with the pandemic.
Yes.
Look at the people.
Yeah.
They turn on the TV and they hear everything about what's happening and how many people are ill and it's so dangerous, and all the people live in fear and think about this one particular thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so clear that it's getting bigger and bigger.
That's right. But we can, again, it's all depends on what you decide you want to think about, what you're going to allow in, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what else he says. It is important to know that the condition is the effect that we see, is not the true cause that we see. So we're talking about the weeds, or what you're just talking about, the pandemic. Like if you're focusing on a pandemic, the chances are you're going to get COVID-19. But if you're not focusing on, you're focusing on getting on with your life, well, there's a much better chance you won't get COVID-19. Like we were talking about this earlier. Both of us refuse to get sick, and neither one of us have.
I know.
Because you don't think about it. Like I'm not getting sick. Like you're not going to see me sick. It's not going to happen. So let's see what else he say here. Dig down deep into the mental storehouse and find out what is that cause. And again, he's talking about the effect, the conditioning, right? If we cannot discern it, there are others who can. Then weed out the cause by replacing it with the right kind of thought. That is, if it is fear, replace it with courage. If it is disease thought, replace it with healthy thought. If it is a limited thought, think thoughts of plenty. Force some issue whereby we alter or change the trend of the thought. Then, as we replace the thoughts that are as weeds, they will die of their natural selves, for such weeds die from lack of cultivation. And he goes on to say here too, that as long as we allow things to seem real to us, we are putting our energy into it. We are nurturing it. We are feeding it. We are keeping it alive. We are putting our faith into that thing, whether we like it or not, and it must naturally grow. But the law of growth is ever working to produce whatever seed we plant. That's why, I have a hard time with, people that want to, talk to me and all they want to do is keep complaining. I understand, obviously, as coaches, we need to hear the complaint in the beginning so we can help them change it. But we also get people who never want to stop complaining.
Yeah,
And
that's true. That's so
all
true.
all you're doing is you're cultivating the weeds.
Yeah.
Right? You're making them grow. And then not only are they growing within that person, but you're now planting weeds in me too by making me listen to it. Right. So these are things, again, I don't get people that I work with that are like that, because they don't come to me because they want to keep complaining. They come to me because they want the change. And that's what we work on. But if you're out and you run into old friends, I'm in a city where I kind of spend most of my life, and I have to admit, it's a bit of a negative city to start with. So generally the people are kind of negative. So, I keep running into old friends, and I'm thinking, I love these people, but they never stop complaining. And it's really difficult because, how do you get away from that? It's like you haven't seen this person in 20 years, and then, all they want to do is complain. But I do it, and then I just, sometimes, you might see them again at the grocery store, and you go down a different aisle, so you don't have to stop and have a conversation with them. Again, like I said, I love these people.
Here he says, then we weed out the cause by replacing it with the right kind of thought. So if you have a negative thought, replace it. Sometimes I think we should do it with people too. And I do it, in my life, because if you have people around you, they let you think the way they want to see you thinking, then it's better you replace them.
Absolutely. I read that part. I highlighted a part down near the bottom of this particular page here. It says, man can impress his thought on formless substance and cause the thing he thinks about to be created. And that kind of means, there's a quote that I think everybody hears: thoughts, thoughts are things, or thoughts become things, that kind of thing. And again, it goes back to, the idea of the law of vibration and attraction. So man can impress his thought on formless substance and cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So when you talk about formless substance, he's talking about this universe. Like everything already exists.
Mhm.
And it's your thinking is what's going to determine whether or not it comes into form. And again, it goes back to, you need to be very careful that you're not cultivating the weeds, because you're going to bring those weeds into form as well, right? So he goes on to say again here that man is constantly thinking. He can change his thought, but he cannot stop thinking. This thinking power flows in and through him like the very air that we breathe. Man's problem then is to direct his power of thinking into constructive channels of expression. It is a scientific fact that no power can act without producing some kind of an effect. Now, we talk about that all the time. Your thinking causes your actions cause a reaction, which is the effect. And you're going to find that effect is the result, good or bad. And by merely thinking, we are continually producing those effects. These effects register and record in daily life. Now, everything going on in your life, you've caused in some way with your thinking, right? So when our thoughts are aimless and imperfect, we create for ourselves pain and confusion. This is misdirected energy. Now, electric energy, when it is misdirected and uncontrolled, develops lightning, the most destructive agent. Yet that same power of lightning can be harnessed to become a most obedient and useful servant for good. The first question in our self-development is, are we controlled by our thoughts? Or are we controlling our thoughts? Are we using our thoughts for gain? Or are our thoughts using us for a continued loss? Those are great questions. I like what he says here too. He's talking about Jesus. He says, Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added. He also said, the kingdom is within you. Heaven is a state of mind. That's what I think that, we need to understand is what I think, again, I'm not an expert on Christianity, but that's sure what that sounds like to me. Now, let's think about it again. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added. Okay, so he's basically saying your thinking needs to be in line with that of the kingdom of heaven. And then when he goes on to say the kingdom is within you, so it's already in you. Right? He also, and then heaven is basically a state of mind, right? That's what Raymond Hall was. Therefore, heaven is an orderly, disciplined, constructive state of thinking. To gain all things, we must first gain a disciplined, orderly, constructive state of mind. Now, good question. Have you a disciplined mind? I think sometimes I don't. I've been studying this a long time. It's not always easy to always be in the right state of mind. But the more you work on it, the better you're going to get at it. I know that I'm in a much better state of mind today than I was like 20 years ago. I can think back at times where I wasn't thinking at all. Like, I don't even know how I got through the day sometimes. Right? But luckily, I started to learn to think and change a few things. So, have you any dominating appetite? Are you emotional? Do you vent your feelings through impatience, temper, malice, hate, pride, envy, conceit, lies, dishonesty, and the like? Any of the negations as named, if controlling your thoughts, will delay good from coming to you. Anything in life that dominates us, makes us a servant to its dictates. All our weaknesses and all our lacks are due to some compelling influence that binds us and keeps us from us what we naturally would receive if we were free in mind to receive them. It goes on to say, man, being a creative creature of nature, is endowed with the power to overcome all these mistakes, all these evil forces. That power is unfailing in us in its operation. When used properly, one can master any trial. Nature has no problems she cannot solve. She has no troubles she cannot remove. All her movements are governed by the law of order and discipline. Man can say and do the same if he will pattern after nature. This is, really great information. Like, if this is something new, again, if this is new to you, if you're listening to us, I highly recommend, reach out to Karin or myself and get a copy of this. and study it. I think you're going to find it. This entire book will really truly make a difference. So, now he says,
Absolutely.
go ahead, guess something you want to say? No, just
No, I
absolutely.
said absolutely. This is the repetition of this information. This alone changes your mind and your thinking.
That's right. And of course, you want to make sure you keep joining us every week until we get through the end of this book.
Yeah.
Tuesdays at 3 p.m. But first note, it says here, nature takes no chances. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. Her forces operate under a law. If a stone is thrown up into the air, it falls back to the ground again. The law says so. Thoughts in our minds are governed by a law with the same exactness. Mind is the source and cause of conditions in our lives. Hence, it is here that we start to adjust and discipline our thoughts in order to stabilize our affairs. The fact that every problem is mental is another reason why we must learn to control our thoughts to determine our lives. And then he says again here, but is our problem mental? Well, let's see. If we desire to gain wealth, we find that it is not a place nor an environment. If so, all the people in one city would be rich and the people in another city would be poor. Wealth is not the result of saving or of thrift. Many penurious people, I don't even know that word is penurious. I'll have to look that one up. I bet you know. You always seem to know the words.
No.
It's not your language.
I don't know it. I've never heard this.
Penurious. Someone, hey, Lawrence, what's penurious mean? Anyway, many penurious people are poor. Many free spenders are rich. Wealth is not due to any certain business, for men in the same business are poor and rich alike. That's true. It is something within the mind of man that makes the wealth. And that something in the mind of man is the quality and type of thoughts he entertains. Right? I know that for example. You can see somebody that I remember even seeing, a person that had a fitness studio where, they fitness training. And, they did fairly well, but then somebody down the street opened up another one. It wasn't better. Like, it wasn't like they had more equipment. It wasn't anything. It's just, but then all of a sudden it was a lot of people going to this new one. Well, the only difference really is the thinking of the owner.
Yeah.
The guy that was there first probably was focusing all of his attention on the fact now he has competition. Whereas the one that opened up new thinking, geez, there must be enough business in this area for both of us. Right? And
yeah,
guess
it's
what?
just the thinking, and the thinking, is responsible for the attitude.
Yeah. So Lawrence has responded. Thank you, Lawrence. Penurious is very poor. So many very poor people are poor. I guess that.
Miserly. Is this?
I remember I was asking about
greedy. Is another word for greedy. I found out.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. All right. So very poor greedy. Okay. All right. Greedy works. But anyways, we're now English majors. Thankfully to a Canadian that lives in Ottawa and an Austrian, we're learning the English language. And of course, there's your dog.
Yeah.
Who agrees with everything we're saying. So.
Come here.
Carry on, Car, and I think you're gonna do this next part here.
Yeah, so man must stalk success or any worthwhile enterprise similar to the lion who stalks his meal. Man must work himself up to gain success. He does not fall into it. Just to roar out or to shout his statements is not enough. Birds of dollars will not fall out of trees through fright. They will more likely fly away. When our ideas are organized, they are under our control. That is, our thoughts are so arranged that they work together as a single unit. Our minds must be controlled in their expressions so that every process of thought will be in an orderly fashion. All action is the result of thought. It determines the conditions of life. And to have better conditions in life, we must first make efforts to organize our thoughts. We wish to gain the best in life, but we do not know how to think correctly. And that's true. That's true. To organize the thoughts, know what you want, know how you think, be aware what you're thinking all day long. What are your habits? What are your patterns? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the sad part is a lot of people don't even think unless there's some kind of trauma happening.
Yeah.
Even like you can be out on the highway driving along and there could be lots of traffic, and that majority of those people aren't thinking. And the only time they think is when somebody stops suddenly in front of them and they have to hit the brake and panic, and like that's the only time they're thinking, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And then as soon as everything starts to flow again, they stop thinking.
Yeah.
Luckily, they think long enough to hit the brakes, but then again, you can go down the highway and see there's a lot of people don't even do that. They end up on the side of the road with a tow truck and perhaps the police.
And the police, yeah. The average person thinks at random. He has no clear design in his mind to which he can frame his thoughts. If he has a design, he does not direct his daily efforts toward it. Most of his thinking is beyond control, chaotic, and unorganized. This is why disappointment and failure are always near, for they thrive on the indecision.
Yeah.
We attract only what we think or create. Oh, excuse me, I have to put this in cable here. Just a second. Yeah. We attract only what we think or create. This is the law of thinking. To achieve success, we must think it, we must work it, we must become it. And I highlighted this sentence because to achieve success, we must think it, we must work it, and we must become it. And to embody the new version, the new person who is successful, this is so important. You get a totally new attitude and a totally new vibration.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always like to, it's not really a great quote, but fake it till you make it. You got to become it.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. That's so true. Yeah.
It works.
To advance, we must make some effort to rise. To obtain happiness, we must adapt our lives to the law of harmony and order. To rise above any limitation, we must organize our thinking along constructive lines. If man wishes to climb a hill, he doesn't sit down at the base of it and pray to the good Lord to lift him, hoping the Lord will pick him up bodily and carry him to the top, or give him a pair of wings to fly. The natural thing he does first is to organize his thought. He decides he is going to climb the hill, and then he starts to climb. Oh, that's so good, because that's what we always say. Just go, just do it, just make the first step. And he climbs steadily, keeping his eye ever on the top. He may find another picking out a better trail. He may wind around. He may slip back and a step or two. He may even fall. He may have to stop to rest to regain his strength. But as he keeps his thoughts collected and his desire intent upon reaching the top, he will eventually get there.
He has to.
That's the point. Just go. Just make the first step. Organize the thoughts and go.
Reaching the top is the goal? You don't need to know exactly how to get there. That's what he's saying. Like, you may fall, you may trip, you may, all kinds of things can happen. But as long as you keep your eye on the top and you keep thinking about moving forward and keep taking that action, you're going to get there. One way or another, you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm. A woman wanted to, is this story? Well, first, yeah, a woman wanted, I have to read this paragraph here because this is so perfect. A woman wanted to dispose of her home. She couldn't understand what was delaying her answer, for he had been praying, she said, for some time. I asked her, what do you do towards working with the law? Tell me what you did yesterday. Well, first she prepared breakfast for her family. Then she got the children after school. Then she said she always spent 30 minutes with her silence and her reading. After that, Mr. Jones called her on the phone and they had a lengthy chat, but it was of little importance. Then it was time to prepare lunch. After lunch, a neighbor called her out to see the garden, and she stood and talked over the fence for more than an hour. But I asked, what did you do in between these incidents? Oh, she replied, whatever came to my notice that had to be done. I was busy all the time, but somehow, she added, I have never liked housework. And this is a perfect story. And when I first read this paragraph, I thought, oh my God, he's writing about me. I did it that way, exactly the same.
I never like
And
housework.
this is organizing the thoughts. And this is the mental discipline.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah, to be disciplined is sometimes it can be effort. It can be hard work, but it's necessary to gather all the thoughts and put them on the goal, on success, wherever you want to go, like a laser point.
Absolutely. That's the key. Discipline's a big one. That's the problem, is most people don't have any discipline.
Yeah.
We're not conditioned to do this kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's also a condition. Yeah. So true. Also, when we talk about the visualization, how many people find excuses? When I talk to my clients, for example, and they don't have the results they want to have, and I say, okay, do you make the visualization every evening when you go to bed, when you're lying in bed, when it's time for the night? No, not every night, because when I'm lying in bed and then I'm tired and then I forget, and they always have excuses. And this is the mental discipline.
Gotta be disciplined.
Yeah.
You were talking about housework. I'm never disciplined to do housework. Not my thing.
No.
But you're absolutely right.
Either. Now everybody knows it.
It's our secret. But that is definitely a key to a lot of these things, is being disciplined. Like, and what we're talking about here again is the law of thinking. So you have to be disciplined in your thinking.
Yeah.
You need to be disciplined in, what is it that you're thinking about on a daily basis? Is that thinking taking you where you want to go, or is it keeping you stuck right where you're at? And all you have to do is look at people's results. They keep getting the same results over and over and over again. Well, you know what their thinking is. It's exactly the same as it was the day before. Now, they may be thinking that I want a better life, and I want a new relationship, I want better health, I want to lose weight, I want to take a trip. They may be thinking that, but their discipline of thought when it comes to actually taking action in those areas is they don't have time. Just like you were saying, you've got people that, what are you thinking about as you go to bed at night? Oh, I'm so tired. I don't really have time to be thinking about things.
Mhm.
And yet you'd be surprised what they think about all day long, which has nothing to do with anything. You know, gossiping
Yeah.
about a neighbor, watching TV, it's, things like that. Gossiping about a person at work, you know, could spend that time thinking about what's next. You know?
Yeah, for example, and um, this this one phrase, "I have no time." This is the biggest lie ever. Yeah, and the worst excuse ever. So because I have no time is this is just an excuse. These are just other words of saying no. I don't want success. I don't want my health.
Yeah.
I don't want wealth. I don't want to do anything for it. And this is a big misunderstanding from from the law, from every single law, and from the law of attraction, that people think they have just to think about what they want. And this is a wish and not a commitment.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. A lot of people don't. I think when The Secret came out, everybody started creating vision boards, which I'm all for vision boards. But a lot of people thought that all I needed was a vision board and kept staring at, it, and then all these things on their vision board would miraculously show up, like it's some kind of a magic trick. And it is sort of a magic trick, but there's part of it that you need to be doing is you need to actually keep focusing on it and act upon it, and everything you need will show up.
Hmm.
But are you going to win the lottery tomorrow? You could, but not likely. However, if you have an idea in your mind, maybe it's something that the universe has, even through your intuition, has given you some thoughts towards something. If you take that and you act upon it, it's like winning the lottery. Will it show up tomorrow? Probably not, but it will show up as long as you keep focusing on it, right? So that's something that I think that a lot of people don't really quite understand, that side of things. And when we're talking about laws of the universe here, they truly are laws. If you mess up, if you don't follow the laws, you're going to lose. Or you may not actually feel as though you're losing because everybody around you is in the same place. But the
Yeah.
reality is you could be winning, and you could leave that group. You could move to a different neighborhood. You could go and be around people that are winning. It really depends on what you want. Like it's just about the thinking, right?
Yeah.
There was something I was going to say and I forgot what it is. So, um, anyways,
Yeah. But new thoughts, the new thinking needs new ideas.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big problem for so many people because they don't know what they want.
Right.
They don't even know what they like. They don't even know what their passion is. And that's a big problem because if they don't know it, so they can't go after a particular thing.
Right. And
So,
sometimes too, I think in that same scenario there, it's how we're conditioned to see the world.
yeah.
If you grow up in an environment where you go to work every day and you get paid by the hour and you live within your means. Well, even though you might have this wonderful passion inside of you, you've been conditioned to believe it's just a pipe dream. It's not something that's ever going to happen. That's for other people.
Yeah.
I remember I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and I remember I couldn't have been more than maybe 7 years old and walking around a big, I don't know if you have them in Austria, but, like, yeah, we have Walmarts in Austria. I'm not sure, but
No, no.
you know what a Walmart is? You've been to California, you know what
Yeah,
Walmart.
Walmart. Yeah.
Well,
We
we're
have
walking
big stores like this, but
around
not a Walmart.
Walmart. That's probably a good thing. But uh, in fact, the place I was at wasn't a Walmart. It was a Canadian version. I think it was called Woco back in the day. They don't exist anymore. But anyways, I was with my father and we're walking around again. Think about it, I'm like maybe 7 years old. No, I had to be probably maybe 10 years. But I grabbed something. I don't even remember what it was. And I said, Dad, can I have this? And he immediately looked at it and he said, do you know how many hours I have to work to pay for that? So that's a paradigm right there. I was conditioned to believe that the only way you can have anything is you have to trade your time for it.
Mm-hmm.
And, trading time for money is pretty much what most people do, but it really is probably the worst thing you could be doing. The key is to try to create something that pays you while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Those are things that, obviously you and I can help people understand that a little better, but those are paradigms. So, when we're talking about the law of thinking, we're conditioned to think a certain way. We're conditioned to think like the people we grew up around, the environment we grew up around. And that's the hard part is to be able to think outside that box, think differently. Like, even when I started wanting to get a job, obviously I had some, jobs as a teenager working at a gas station and car wash and things like that. But as I started looking at careers, I wasn't really thinking about passion. It was steady paycheck, steady hours.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to trade a steady amount of hours for a steady amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That kind of cripples any possibilities of anything great. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's important to try to find something you actually like doing, so you don't hate going to work. But I know people that do have full-time jobs, but then they have a passion that they do in the evening or on the weekends, a couple hours here and a couple hours there, and they make money from that too, which kind of fills in the blanks a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. So many people they make good money with their passion, and sometimes they work just a few hours per week.
That's right. That's the key.
It's all about the value the people and we bring out to the world, because that's what we are doing too. We bring value to the people.
Yeah, exactly. And we're building something with the Elevate network that people want to get involved in that even. Can create a passive income. You can maintain your full-time positions wherever you are, but get people involved in the Elevate network and get paid on a monthly basis and things like that. So there's lots of opportunities out there. I always remember Bob talking about you want to learn how to take your annual income and turn it into monthly income. Yes. Wouldn't that be nice? And working less hours. Right?
Yeah.
That's the key. It's not about working, more hours. And I see that all the time too. People say, I want more income. Well, instead of working 40 hours, they start working 80 hours. Okay, well, that's okay if you're building something. But if the 80 hours is more just overtime job, like trading more hours, well, it's probably not going to last very long, because you can't work 80 hours a week forever. You're going to get tired. But the interesting thing too, if you're thinking about your passions, something you love, then it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Well, like I can, when I started putting the Elevate network together, 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I still mess around like that. I still put in a lot of hours, but I don't even think about it because I'm creating something, and I know that eventually, because I can see it in my mind, that I won't have to work a lot of hours, that I'll be able to sit back and really kind of enjoy what I built and watch how it's improving people's lives. And that's the passion, right? You have some more here that you're going to do, or do you want me to do, or what? You're the boss today. You're the boss today, Corinne.
Yeah, here he writes about the ideas. If we have any problems, it is because we are not controlling our ideas. Nature has no problems because she's orderly and disciplined. Self-control consists of an organized thought direction. That is, we start out with a well-defined aim or objective, think toward it continuously, not just for 30 minutes, plan our time and work so that fill our days so full of constructive duties that there is no room for idle chatter or waste of any kind of enter in. This development will enable us to move steadily upward toward success. When all things are in harmony and order, problems will cease to be perplexities, and mysteries will cease to be mysterious. Knowledge and understanding will supplant fear and ignorance, and that which was invisible will become visible. That which was unknown will become known. Life with its circumstances is no longer an enigma, but a clear interpretation of the law of thinking. We are what we are according to our state of thinking. We attract only what we think or create.
Yeah, very important.
Absolutely.
That very last line. We attract only what we think or create. Right? Everything you're thinking, you're bringing into your life.
Absolutely.
That's the law of thinking, right?
Yeah. And here is a poem. Thoughts are things. I hold it true that thoughts are things. They are endowed with bodies and breathe and wings, and that we send them forth to fill the world with good results or ill. That which we call our secret thought speeds forth to earth's remotest spot, leaving its blessings or its woes, like track behind it as it goes. We build our future thought by thought for good or ill, yet know it not. Yet so the universe was wrought. Thought is another name for fate. Choose then thy destiny and wait, for love brings love and hate brings hate.
Yeah, that's
This
really
is
good.
from Henry van Dyke.
I like the part there. We build our future thought by thought for good or ill, yet know it not.
This is so good, yeah.
The last part there, thought is another name for fate. Choose then thy destiny and wait. And again, pointing to you need to know what you want and then start moving, right? And it'll come. For love brings love and hate brings hate. Now that just reminds me too of
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Proverbs 23:7. So that brings us to the end of this session on the law of thinking. We've got many, many more. In fact, next week we'll be back here at the same time, same channel for the law of supply. Another great lesson from Raymond Hollowell. This truly is a great book. It was written, I think, it was 1939. It was published. And again, anybody who may be joining us that would like to get a copy of that, just let us know and reach out to Card or myself, and we'll get you a copy of it. You can download it and read it for yourself and maybe follow along with us. And you're welcome, Lawrence. I'm assuming that's you. Doesn't say so, but Lawrence is generally with us every week, and we appreciate that. And again, Lawrence, don't forget tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow at our Elevate Roundtable. If anybody who isn't familiar with the Elevate Roundtable, it's kind of like a mastermind that we do. You do have to register for it because it's not a live an event. It's not something that you're going to find here on Facebook or anywhere else. It's a closed meeting, but you get to join us and actually have conversations with us. There's, I don't know what's usually about close to a dozen of us, 12 of us, maybe, Karen, I think, or something like that. So anyways, again, if you don't know how to get to the Elevate Roundtable, just reach out to Karen or myself, and we'll show you how you do that as well. So, so we'll see you next week, and thanks again. Great having here. You were sorry I can't speak today. Thanks. Good to see you today, Karen. How's that? That's better. Man.
Good to see you too.
I'm too busy thinking about other things, right? I need to be thinking about what I'm doing at the moment. Right? That's the problem. Is my mind. I'm thinking ahead of my mouth, and therefore the words don't come up properly. So, it was great being here with you, Karen Gottschalk. It's always a pleasure, and great to seeing anybody who might have been joining us. And again, check us out tomorrow at the Elevate Roundtable, and we'll be back again next Tuesday. And of course, on Thursdays, we're also back here finishing up our Think and Grow Rich Mastermind with Walter. Won't be joining us this week, but Eric Keys and Karen and myself. And I don't remember what the chapter is we're on, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Do you remember what it is?
I don't know.
I'm thinking about this right at the moment, right? So that's the key too. Like, and he talks about it too. Stay focused. Stay focused on what you're thinking about. So, anyways, great seeing everybody, and we'll see you again another time.
Bye.
Yeah.